So we start these shows, we try to pretend like we don't know what we're doing, but really we know exactly what we're doing because we have another episode with Shawn Henry, Trevor Bennett. This is our first duo. This is on the podcast, not an accident podcast. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Let's start there, man.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah.
So I mean, first of all, I want to start out by saying, so Shawn, I started following you. Obviously, we're in the Tampa Bay area, and you are the founder of EHS Solar. And to your credit, you were one of the first companies that I saw, local companies, that was actually scaling.
Yes.
And I became fascinated with that because I'm like, how is this guy hiring all these people? And and then between that and your personal development with Arte and stuff like that, I'm like, it was incredible to have somebody like that in the community. And obviously this is a Tampa-based podcast. And then Trevor, we had mutual friends as well.
Yeah,
and then obviously found you guys were friends and then now business partners. Yeah. So let's take a step back. How did EHS start? Let's start there.
So crazy story. Obviously, I feel like every business has a good story behind it. So I was a manager at Verizon Wireless, was working there at the time, got in a little bit of legal trouble. Then Verizon ended up suspending me. When Verizon suspended me for the 90 days that they did, I went and I started selling solar. All right, I was really good at it. First month, I was their number one rep. I got really close with the VP of the company. He'd come down, number one guy, he'd take me out. And then one night, he just told me basically how they started the business, what they needed to do, the LLCs, the licensing, the qualifiers, distributors, and I just paid attention to it. 2 weeks later, the guy ended up dying. Okay.
Wow. How old was the guy?
I think he was 45.
So he was young.
Young, brilliant guy, really driven, kind of reminded me of myself, like just a really driven individual. The owner of the company was a piece of shit. He was ripping people off. He was rude to his sales reps. He was one of those guys where if you didn't know his script, right, he'd make you feel like an idiot in front of everybody, kick you out of the room. He just was a horrible leader. Mm-hmm. So after Bundy died, the guy's name was Bundy, after he passed away, I was there for about one more week, and I was the number one guy. Called on me to do the script. I'm not a script guy, right? I am fly off the pants of my seat, like I'm very just throw me in the fire, very, very witty, very quick. Made me feel like an idiot in front of everybody. I quit that day. I walked out. All right. As I walked out, I stood there outside the building. I'll never forget. I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, if this fucking guy can do this, I was like, I know I can.
And was this in Tampa as well?
This was in Tampa. So it's right off Gandy, their office. So I signed a non-compete. Right back then, you could hold people to those. So I moved to Fort Myers, bought a house in Fort Myers, didn't buy a house, rented a house in Fort Myers, went down there. With that time, I had a business partner. Went down there and just started working on the business, right? We thought we were going to be rich. Fortunately, that was not the case. We ended up, I think for the first 4 years, we didn't make a dollar, right? No,
4 years.
4 years, I didn't.
You didn't make a dollar. When was this? 2017?
This was 2012.
12. Okay, so you're in kind of the beginning of solar sales, really, when it was kind of getting going.
Yeah, I was one of the OGs, is what I call myself. The father of the industry.
Godfather of solar.
So, started building the business, and then, in Fort Myers, we were getting a lot of cash customers. We ended up having a $30,000 project cash, right? We go to collect from this guy, and this was the pivotal moment in the company. We pull up, there's ambulances around the house, fire trucks. The fucking guy ended up dying.
That owed you 30 grand?
Yes.
Okay.
So now we're a startup, right? We have no money. Bank account's now negative $17,000. So we come back here to regroup. As we're regrouping, I go out to dinner with Jeff Knight. Do you know Jeff Knight?
Sounds familiar. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So Jeff wanted to start an energy division at Knight Enterprises. So took me out to dinner. He brought this gentleman by the name of Andrew Wilson, this Australian guy, big in the alarm space. All right. So during this dinner, Jeff makes me a really good offer, $100,000 salary, bonuses, and somebody that had no money at the time, right? We're broke, accounts in negative. I was entertaining it. And I'll never forget, during that dinner, this gentleman, Andrew, didn't even really know him, I found out we're both Leos. We're both born on the same day. He's from Australia. I'm from Canada. 10 years apart exactly. His mom's name is June, and my mom's name is June.
Wow. Okay.
Like, what are the odds, right?
Insane, yeah.
Insane odds. So I leave this dinner. Next morning, I get a phone call from a Utah number. I pick up. It's this guy, Andrew. And Andrew tells me, he's like, listen, man, or listen, mate, like in his little Australian accent. He goes, listen, man, he's like, I think you're onto something. He's like, you're onto something with this business. He's like, don't go work for Jeff. He's like, I'm going to give you $5,000. He's like, you don't have to pay me back. He's like, I want you to go open up another bank account, right? Our other business account was negative 17K.
Yeah.
I had to charge that off. I went and opened up another bank account. He, gave me a pep talk. If business was easy, everybody would be doing it. He's like, don't quit. He's like, Leo's, don't quit. And he's like, and if you really want to be a true business owner and be successful, he's like, you can't quit. He's like, it took me 18 years to get basically where he was, right? His company was worth $320 million. So this guy used to crawl through attics and got into the tech space and just formulated his company to just be this massive.
Was it something like a Vivint or something like that of Australia?
So what they did, they were the back end to, have you heard of alarm.com?
Yeah.
Okay. So they were their rival.
Wow.
SecureNet.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they did all the back end software, the communication between the devices, the call centers and all that, right? So big money, big software. And then he just had that talk with me. I went and opened up that bank account and we started getting calls for referral business, right? Who we drove back down, sold the referrals. Then probably the most pivotal moment was we had to fake it till we make it. And every entrepreneur needs to understand this, right? Like there's a moment where you got to fucking wake up every day and tell yourself you're going to be a millionaire. Tell yourself you're going to make it. And there's times where, you got to have, I'd say a high risk tolerance. So the company went out of business, the one that I left, okay? And they had all these canvassers, meaning more payroll, more money going out. We didn't even have the fucking money at this time. So one of the call center managers calls me. His name's Donnell, and he said, "Hey, I have all these canvassers. We have all these deals to put through. Are you guys good? Are you guys stable enough?" I said, "Fuck yeah, we are." Man.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sales.
Let's do it.
It's a true story. So next day we hire all these guys. We bring them in. We're sharing an office at this time with my attorney. She let me, rent this little office from her, so we seemed like we were a legit operation. They come in, we get them onboarded, and we ended up selling 4 deals in the first 2 days. And back then, you could fund the jobs right away. Like you didn't have to submit photo packs, sign-offs. So we sold the 4 jobs. We funded the $125,000, and then we were off to the races.
Yeah. Boom. Capital.
Boom. Capital ready to go. So that's how EHS started. And then, so over the years, just kept working on the business, being in the business. And then I'm a big visionary, right? Like I've never placed anything I do. I'm 100% the good way and the bad way, right? Like either way, I'm 100% with anything I do. So just started working within the business, started building out the sales reps, pitch books, got, as you grow in business and so you get more finance companies to do business with you, figured out how to generate our own leads, brought all of our installers in-house, and then, just over the years, just kept working on the business and working within the business.
That's amazing. Yeah. And somebody that I can identify with that story of you have to tell yourself every day, I'm going to be a millionaire and I'm going to make it happen. Yeah. My first 8 months of practicing law, I did not take a salary. I made a whopping $12,000.
Yeah,
so
a lot of people understand that.
And I had a very supportive wife. We lived at our uncle's house. It like every day you're dragging yourself in there and you're hustling and you're beating the streets and you're meeting people and you're like, it was hard, man. I mean, I would go to client meetings, and I'm like, man, and these cases take 18 months to 2 years sometimes. So I'm like, man, this is going to be a long haul. And I'm like, I'm not giving up. And, here's where we are. So Trevor, tell me, you've been in the roofing business for many years, even prior to this, correct?
Prior to this, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Back with Shawn. So Shawn and I, we go way back, high school days. Used to watch him walk in the halls, big jock. He's always been the man from way back in the day. So kind of like him, brought me from Verizon. Essentially, from there, Verizon was kind of sunsetting on the sales scope, right? Kind of going into brochure sales. I love the art of sales. At that point, realized it's time to turn a page, time to look for a new industry. At that time, I was a GM, youngest one in history there, and then ran the events team as well. So when I saw his success on the outside and a lot of the other top guys making that shift, that's when I started setting my eyes on, okay, that's when I came over to him with the HS, actually. That's how worked for him for a while. Actually went down to Fort Myers.
Yeah, he was down there with me. Yeah, that's right. I forgot
so you were so you're like OG as well, like as
OG,
far as going back
OG,
Fort Myers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when did you went through that first kind of 4 years, and then you started making money, and this has kind of become a staple question I'll ask each of you, so please answer. When did you guys realize that things were changing, like as far as your lifestyle and things like that? When do you realize you were successful? Like for me, for example, when I could take my wife out to anywhere in Tampa, any restaurant that I wanted, and could take her to, and didn't have to think about the bill or anything like that, I was like, life's a little different. You know what I mean?
Easier.
That's about the same. So like I was always big on, I grew up with a single mother. I had a great childhood when I moved down here with my stepdad. Then they got divorced. Then my life put myself in some bad situations, right? And I'd say I always go back to those moments when I had no money and I was broke and I would struggle and, put myself being around the wrong people, right? So I always visualize myself in that space. And then when I became truly successful for me was when I was surrounding myself with people that are like-minded, right? When I was sitting in rooms with other multimillionaires, when I was sitting in a room with a billionaire who I made a great connection with, this guy, John Chirando, one of the most amazing humans on planet Earth, right? That was, for me, like the money's great and like buying the dinners and the sports cars, but like for me, it's like being in those circles and being able to know like, okay, I'm in a room with some bad motherfuckers right now. You know what I mean? That was I feel like I've made it to the success point, right? Even getting invited on podcasts and just my network, they say like your network is your net worth, right? So just being around people like that are really like-minded, like to me, and I was like, fuck, dude, I'm friends with Andy Frisella. I have conversations with Ed Milet. That's when I knew. I was like, okay, like I'm successful. I never really feel like I'm successful, and I think that's why. And I think he's a lot like me, right? We just operate, and I never really take time to really look at that. But I'd say my moment was being in rooms with guys like that and having cool conversations, not only about business, life, sneakers, cars, sports cards. You know what I mean? That was like okay, like I've kind of made it. So that was my moment for me, where just being in those rooms and those circles with people like that.
What about you, Trevor?
It's a loaded question. I mean, success, I feel I've been successful for a long time. Monetarily, probably back in Verizon days, I used to take off 2 months at a time, April and May.
No way.
Yeah,
That's awesome, dude.
At 27 years old, take off April, May, I'd go travel and come back. That being said, success is something I'm always after, right? It's something I believe like it's within me. It's what I have, and how am I going to capitalize on it, right? So the journey we're on right now with Roofing Co. and our partnership in the business, that's something that's growing and evolving daily to try to, fulfill that answer, like kind of where, you're asking.
I think to your point, and I want to point that out as well, to your network is your net worth. So when we were at the Tampa Entrepreneur event, shout out to those guys, that last one that we were at.
That was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great event. And shout out to Simon and all those dudes, great, and Joe and everybody. When we were there, and it was like me, you, Christian standing around, Caesar, Tony, and a couple other people. And my wife was like, I called my wife on the way home, and she goes, "Oh, how'd it go?" And I was like, I was in a circle with, and I try not to swear on the podcast too much, but I was in a circle with some badass motherfuckers. Like I was around some Tampa people like that were actually doing things. So I agree with you. I had that kind of like epiphany as well, where I was like, man, like these are.
When your circle starts changing, like
it was crazy. Yeah,
you're in rooms and you're like, fuck, like you kind of have imposter syndrome at times. You're like, should I even be in here right now? And then like, let's talk about Arte because this kind of prefaces goes in.
Please, yeah.
So when I first went to Arte, I was nervous as fuck. My first event, I'm going with 30 Ed Milet, like all these badass people I followed on Instagram, like these guys are going to be here. I'll never forget, my wife dropped me off at the airport. And I'm not a person that gets nervous. I'm very confident, and I'm sitting in there. I'm like, I'm fucking nervous as fuck right now. And she's like, why? She's like, you're a bad motherfucker. She's like, go in there and just be you. When I went in there after my first, I'd say our first weekend, and I left there, I was in the top 5% of Arte. I realized that real quick. I was like, damn, these people aren't like me, a lot of them are fake, to be honest with you. Nothing against Arte, but all those people that they were there for the clout. I want to be around Andy. I want to be around Ed. Where I was there to learn, and I had a sustainable business where a lot of these guys may have been these e-com guys or people that, sorry to any e-com guys out there, but anybody that hasn't built a sustainable business with actual employees and people and processes and, so when I left there, my confidence went through the fucking roof. Like after that first event, I walked away, and I hate to say this, but like I put my nuts on the table. I was like, I belong.
I belong. And then some, really.
So at that moment, that for me, like when I left there, like that's honestly probably also why my business probably 5x'd in 2019, 2020, and 2021, because I came back a different person, right? I was never into self-development like that. But going there and learning from the greats and hearing their stories and just knowing like we're just like these guys. Like Andy Frisella to me is like my twin. Like the things he does, what he speaks about, how he comes off, how people view him, like he made me feel like I wasn't crazy. Because when you're as driven as like guys like us are, right? The rest of the world in society, that you're like an outcast. They're like, this guy's too much for me, or this guy, all he cares about is money, or this and that. It's like, no, I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about business. I'm passionate about building. So Arte for me, man, like when I left that first event, I'll never forget. I came back and I looked at my wife and I was like, dude, I'm it. I was like, I got the confidence now. I got it.
That's great.
You know, so it's just one of those stories too. It's like just like the circles being in there, and then you can identify like, all right, like I outwork this guy, like this guy. You know what I mean? It was just one of those where it just gave me that confidence when I got back, where I was like, I can fucking do anything.
Do you guys feel like, and one thing that I often wonder, that some people are just like they got that dog in them.
Yeah.
I mean, the best, but like there's like there's not one thing that they're specifically motivated by. It's just they love winning and the thrill of the hunt. Like they're just like, yeah. I mean, it's like it don't matter if I made X amount of dollars, or I could buy this, or I could do this, or all that. I just love it. I just love going at it. And
he'll tell you, like my big thing is I always tell him, I was like, I thrive in chaos. Like that's when I'm happy.
Amen.
Like it's literally, it's like when I tell people that, they're probably like, this guy's fucking weird, but like literally, I love stress and I love chaos when it's in the business sense, right? Like I love that shit. Like to me, that's when I'm at my best. When my back's against the wall, not when I'm comfortable and I was making a lot of money. That's when I was like, I feel like not as strong as I could have been. Where when my back's against the wall, I'm just different. Like I got that dog in me. I can handle anything. I mean, me and him,
this is kind of yearning after the next challenge, right?
Yes.
Always being challenged. If you're not challenged going forward, it's not fun, right? So that mindset that I feel like we all have is something that, I'm here to be challenged because we like to be tested. And that's when you get to capitalize on the talents, you really feel like we have. And that's where we get excited.
So who came up with the idea for speaking of challenges and kind of growing? So who came up with the idea for Roofing Co., which by the way, we were talking about before the episode started. And I was like, how in the hell did you guys get this name, man? So who came up with the idea?
That'd be Shawn.
So the story's actually kind of cool. So I'm one of those where like I try to identify. I always want to give my friends, like, especially close friends, an opportunity. I'm big on that. Like I want my boys to come up with me. I don't want to be the only one at the top. Unfortunately, we had a lot of friends or have friends that just didn't get it, right? They don't understand that. They were, I don't know, scared of the opportunity or challenge, or they just didn't have that dog in them, right? I always knew we had it in him because I brought him from LA Fitness to Verizon, from Verizon into EHS, from EHS, and he went and did his own solar thing. And then I just was sitting there one day and I was, we were still friends. We were talking. I was like, I really want to start an insurance roofing business. I want to get into that side of it because I knew there was big money in it. We're already doing roofing. I understand, the construction side of everything. So, I bought the domain one night and I called him and, pitched him on the opportunity. I said,
when was it? When do you think you bought the domain?
This was like 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago.
So so you guys been building this for a minute.
Yeah. So, called him with the opportunity and I know he trusted me, right? I know he trusted me because of the relationship we had over the 20 years, the businesses, and every time I've took him somewhere, like I've always taken him to more money. And it was on him to execute. And this fucking guy executes. So brought the idea to him and, he was like, let me call you back. I think you want to talk to Ashley.
Oh yeah, it was a big process for me. I mean,
I can imagine.
Yeah, away from $150,000 a year, basically.
Or more. Yeah,
running a call center to have risk, right? And that's not a lot of people would ever. Do
skin in the game. I mean,
I always found myself leading up that chart within the company, right? Found myself to where I'm doing more than what I'm being compensated for. We all look at ourselves in the mirror every day and we say, I'm that badass dude, right? And I got what it takes to fulfill what I feel like I'm capable of. And kind of with his phone call, it answered at the right time where, hey, you think you're that guy, you want to be that guy, then here's your opportunity to prove it to yourself. And that's kind of what made me jump in when, hey, this is a risky thing, but this is your opportunity to prove to yourself that you think you got it, go for it.
So where did it go from there? So you guys, you took the opportunity, you jumped at it, and then where'd you go?
Took the opportunity and, first I'd say year, we ate shit.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that, just like anybody that starts a business, any other entrepreneurs out there, they can relate. Anybody that's looking to start a business, just be prepared to eat shit for the first couple of years. And, we stayed in it long enough in the beginning to, he didn't make any money, right? He was scraping by, which I love. All right. Like I love that because that gives you perspective on when you start making the money and your business is growing, where you're like, fuck, we're here. We made it. Like, that's when you're like, you get amped up again. There's levels to it, right? You start the business, you go in, you're energized, right? Because you're starting something new. And then you eat shit for a while. And then at some point people either quit, right? Or they stay in it long enough where they get that fucking breakthrough. And I'd always tell them, I was like, just trust me. I was like, it's one day, all of a sudden things are going to start fucking turning. And it has. Like,
have you ever seen that meme where the guy's doing the pickaxe and it's like right the walls like right there and it's like, don't give up. It's right there. Yeah.
So that was it, man. And he's done a phenomenal job. He's all the credit for Roof and Co. I'm the one that came up with the idea. But at the end of the day, he's executed on it. And we just landed a Walgreens job. We're working on 2 churches that are over $1 million. We're working on gas stations. We have over $1 million in insurance roofs just in our pipeline currently that aren't installed. Like, we're here. Like, we've arrived. And to only be 2 years in and be how far we are. I mean, it's like, by the end of next year, I feel like we'll be over at least $6 million in business in just next year, right? So this year, I think we're pacing definitely over $1 million now, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're on pace right now over 5
million.
So
okay, so
we're going to be up there,
right? So it's like, but credit to him, man, because he's the one he's executed on this, and just watching him grow and to be the leader he is, it gives me goosebumps because I love to see it, man. Because a lot of people that we grew up with and we're friends with, unfortunately, they're probably not going to listen to this because they don't listen to podcasts, but they don't have it like he does. Like, you got to be able to identify good leaders, and this guy's one of the best.
I think it was that quote yesterday I sent over to one of the buddies. It was, you can't plant flowers and not expect it to rain, right? So, you dream of a beautiful business and making the money and fulfilling this, it's going to take time. You are going to have bad days, prepare yourself for it. And, that's what you're signing up for. So
how do you advise people to deal with those difficulties and things like that? Or I mean, let me take a step back and ask that a little bit better. Everybody knows that entrepreneurship is very hard. Is there any way that you would recommend the listeners to just kind of prepare for that? Like, listen, like you said, like, everybody says you're going to eat shit, but it's like, are you going to go, like, can you mentally prepare yourself for that? Be like, listen, there's going to be a reward at the end of it. Or how do you kind of prepare that mindset, I guess?
I think
you just got to go through it.
I think the reason to back up a little bit, one of the reasons why I joined Shawn in this partnership is I look back and I go, okay, what am I missing that he doesn't have? What is it that this partnership can bring me within myself? Because without me, there is no Roofing Co. And that was his mental mentality to make drastic decisions in risky times. Like, he is a chance taker. The guy doesn't blink an eye when it comes time to make a major decision at the snap of a finger. And I realized I lack in that. I have all the other tools, but when it came time to make a drastic decision, I would wait and I'd be like, let me feel it out. And then I would finally do. Maybe that opportunity had already come and gone. So that's what I realized going into it that I was trying to gain from him. So to answer your question is, you need to document, you need to write down and not lose sight of what it was that made you want to start it in the first place. What was the dream you had day one? It's going to be year 2. It's going to be year 3. You're going to be struggling. And you're going to say, what was all this for? You got to be able to go back to that time that you were sitting on your bed, crying in tears, not believing in yourself, and then finally saying, okay, I'm going to start this company. If you don't have that written down, if you don't have that documented, it's going to be hard to rely on something, and you're starting to grasp for reasons or lessons you learned to continue that business. But you need to remember why you started in the first place. Lean back on that, because that's what's going to get you through in the long run. Is not losing sight of why you started your firm, not losing sight.
There's a bigger picture. Yeah.
There's a huge bigger picture, right? So, to be frank with you guys, it's part of the reason why I'm not married yet, right? Like, let's be real. I want to be that man. I want to be that dude. And that's something that I'm not losing sight of, You're
in a very competitive space. Obviously, roofing is very competitive.
Absolutely.
Solar is very competitive. How do you guys recommend that business owners market it and differentiate themselves?
If you don't mind.
Please.
Yeah. So Roofing Co., our slogan is experience the difference. What is the difference, right? I think from solar panel to solar panel, they're installed on the roof. From a shingle roof to another shingle roof, there's not much difference, right, Kevin? So I think what makes the difference from one homeowner wanting to choose us over another roofing company is experience that they were referred to and they were told about, or the experience that I can deliver to that client with a passion. That's truly what people these days want. They want a good experience. Like I said, a roof is a roof, a solar system is a solar system, but how fast are you going to answer that service call? There's a leak in your roof. How fast are they going to get out there? And are they going to handle it with passion as if it's their own roof? That's something that I breed into my team. I'm beyond passionate about the experience that we deliver from day one on the first phone call to the end of the job. So that's truly how I feel like branding wise is what is it going to be like being a client of Roofing Co. And how is that going to be different from John's Roofing down the street? And when you deliver with passion and you truly believe that I am a difference maker in the roofing industry and in someone's life because they don't have to have a bad experience that they maybe could have signed up for, when that conveys to the client, it's moving. and it's a winning situation.
I would say too, let me touch on that, is like, there's two parts to it, right? So it's building culture within your company, right? A healthy, sustainable culture, and you kind of breeding them to have your mindset, right? Of, we're going to make this happen. We're going to do everything we can to go out, beat the doors, right? Make sure that you're
can-do spirit.
The can-do, you have to. And the second thing is like the client experience. Like, that's what I'm known for in the solar space. Like, I always do right by the client. Always. That's why I've sustained with my reviews as long as I have, is like, you got to be able to give them a good experience. And if you fuck up, because we all do, right? Every business is due, it happens. Like, how are you going to react to that, right? And so, like, that's it. Like, if you really want to like sustain, you got to be able and make your differentiate yourself from the rest of the space. It's got to be on value with the client retention, and like, what are you doing after the sale? We can all go out and sell the same shit, like you said. Like, it's all the same stuff. Mike's Roofing and Roofing.co. I mean, we're going to be there at the drop of a hat. If there's a leak, we're out there. We're going to fix it for you.
Things are going to go wrong. You got to own up to it, right? Yeah. Own up to it. It's a relationship. You're not a relationship with that client, and you got to be, hey, we messed up. But the thing is that I hope you can tell the tone of my voice. I care about it, and I'm going to make it right as if it's my own roof. And I'm going to make sure it's done in a timely manner. That's the passion. That's the difference maker in branding. Whenever a problem comes up, it's an opportunity.
Yes,
I love problems, because without that leaking roof, how would that client ever know how much I care about them as a client and me, my brand, without, that's at risk of a bad review. So sometimes when bad things happen in business, as they always are, and that you like, right, it's going to rain when you plant flowers. You have to welcome that bad problem, because that's your time to shine, for you to really prove to who you say you are.
And I think you could, even to build on that more, you could almost take it as a compliment.
It's a huge compliment.
For them to say, I trust you enough that I know, and very similar, I have a similar view as well. When a client calls me and is like, hey, this or that, or et cetera, or I'm having this difficulty or that, I'm like, I start the conversation sometimes and I'm like, I want to thank you for confiding in me or trusting me with this issue and stuff like that. And I don't think people a lot of people, oh my gosh, and stuff like that.
It's a client that, so we all have clients or type of scenarios where someone doesn't trust you off the bat. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to give you this shot in my case. I'm going to give you this shot of my roof. And then it's almost, you can tell in their face, they're sitting back and waiting for you to mess up. Yep. On those clients, when something does go awry, man, I get goosebumps. I'm like, perfect, because now I'm going to put it in your face exactly who you're dealing with, and it's a prideful moment when you thought I was going to fail and I couldn't handle a big, a large job. I now get to prove to them and to myself that I am that dude, and this is the company you're doing business with. And that, as an owner, what bigger compliment could you receive? But it's up to the owner, it's up to those people to realize and see through the problem. That's how beautiful it is, and it's hard to see sometimes. And I think with my experience, it allows me to. But that's something that I would recommend to all entrepreneurs and whatnot, is that through the problems, you need to see the beautiful situation when you overcome something, and you're able to be that person you want to be in the first place. That's I love problems.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I've had a couple clients at the end of the case, and they're like,
I looked right up. Yeah. My bad.
I had a couple clients at the end of the case, and I'm like, hey, is that you good with everything and stuff like that? And, it's very monetary in our business and stuff. And they're like, yeah, I'm super excited. And I'm like, is everything okay? And they're like, honestly, I didn't think you were going to get me that much money. And I'm like, that's why you got me. So I love it. I want to transition into sports cards.
Yep.
Because I know you're a sports card guy. How did that passion start?
Oh man. So it started when I was 7 years old. My dad used to buy me, when he'd come pick me up on the weekends in Toronto, he'd take me to the card shop. He'd buy me packs, right? Started collecting. When I was 18, I got evicted from this apartment, and I left all my sports cards in the closet. They shut the place down, couldn't get them. So I had a lot of money into it. And obviously, as I was growing older, I kind of grew out of it. 2020 happened, the shutdown happened, right? We didn't shut down, obviously, I wasn't buying that bullshit. So a buddy called me, he's like, hey, there's...
Great, now we're going to get censored. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry. But my buddy called me, he's like, hey man, he's like, you collect sports cards? I'm like, no, I used to when I was a kid. He's like, this industry's about to blow up. Like, he knew it prior. He's like, this industry's about to, 2,000% increase coming up. He's like, it wasn't a hobby, it's becoming a market now at this point. They're building out all this technology, all these sites, all this grading stuff. So I got into it. I bought a few cards, ended up flipping them. I ended up making like $120K on this one card.
No way.
Yeah, I've made a lot of money doing this. So then obviously I was like, oh shit, I'm onto something here. So then it's like your childhood, right? So
Yeah, it's nostalgic.
Now I'm going back to my childhood. I'm a sports guy. I got these fucking assets and sports cards. I'm trading. I'm selling. So that's how I kind of got back into it, man. And it's I don't do it as much anymore. I still have like my main cards in my collection that I'm hoping I don't ever have to sell. But at the end of the day, it was just one of those things that brought me back to my childhood. And I saw it as another opportunity to make money. Like I'm a hustler. Like I'm always going to find a way to make money. Like always, no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to always find a way to make it happen to where I don't have to sacrifice lifestyle. I can, and basically just set, my family up for, generations to come. I mean, that's why I honestly am like, right now we're building out all these other companies. We won't get too much into it, but it's like, I want a legacy play.
Part 2 coming soon.
Yeah. I want a legacy play, man. I want to be, I don't have anybody rich in my family. Like I'm the guy now. So I want to be the one to where when I have kids and my grandkids, I want to have a fucking painting over their fucking dinner table and then be like, oh, that's Papa, Grandpa over there. And I want my kids to be like, yeah, that's the motherfucker that got you into the private schools. He's the one that left us all this money.
It'll probably be a hologram by then, but right? Just a hologram over the mantle.
Yeah, like, hey. But you know what I'm saying? Like that's honestly like
enjoy private school.
Yeah, enjoy private school, be able to like give them the things that I didn't have, right? So it's like I just want, like, that's my play is like, I just want it when it's all said and done, I'm on my deathbed. I want to be able to look back and be like, fuck, man, I left my footprint on this planet. I did everything I could. I left it all on the table. You know what I mean? I don't want to look back when I'm old and be like, damn, I wish I would have done that. Or I should have done that. Like, I want to do it. You know what I mean? And to me, I mean, there's nothing more powerful than that when you're going to war for like your last name. Like I'm the last male in my family. I'm the last one. So I have to have kids. I have to have a boy. But I want to be that guy to where they're like, okay, like this is the guy that did this for us. You know what I mean? A lot of families have that, but I want to be able to set
Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and yeah, absolutely.
That's why I wake up every day and I bust my ass and I stress as much as I do. It's because, well, one, I love the stress, right? I love the chaos, but two, it's like I want to leave an imprint. Like when I'm on my deathbed, I don't want it just to be me and my wife, and I want people to this sounds crazy here, but I want people to mourn me passing away and be like, dude, this guy fucking impacted me. This guy helped me change my life. This guy, he employed, X amount of people. Like when I look back, I want to be like, damn, like I did it right. I did everything the right way. And, I want to leave my footprint on this planet. And that's how I can do it, is through business.
There was a woman that I knew. She worked at my college. She was a beautiful soul. And I remember it was probably one of the last only funerals I've gone to in the last couple of years, being younger. And I remember going, and it was standing room only, and there was people standing outside.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm like, that
That's
lady.
something you want.
Yeah. I'm like, this is what you want. Like, this is what we're here for.
Yeah.
I want to touch back on culture for a second. How important is culture? I know you kind of talked about that. And then how do you create a culture?
Culture is everything. Culture is who a company is. When the days are great, when the days are bad, what is the culture, right?
It's a standard. It has to be a standard, right?
Interesting. Yeah. Talk about that more. Yeah.
I'll let you go and then I'll jump.
Yeah, it's a standard. It starts with the ownership, down to leadership, and down to the rest of the team. It's everything. It's something that on a daily basis, it's outside of work, is what culture is, right? Are you leading on the bad days? Are you recognizing, are your eyes open as an owner and as a leader to what's going on with your team, right? You can teach a lot through not just a bad report that was turned in, but you can also teach a lot by them having a bad, their kid was sick and making sure that they understand that you're concerned with that, right? Also, being transparent with your team is huge, and that's a winning culture. Not everybody has a successful business. Successful businesses have always had bad days, and when you hit those bad days as a culture, you have to build that we're in this together and be transparent and exactly where the company's at in that moment and what's needed from the team in order to get through. When you have a culture, when you touch base on the kid being sick and you express your concern, it means more when the bad report is turned in because they understand just how much you care, right? So you're there to praise and you're also there to hold people accountable. So people do need to be, at times to let go. But I'm letting you go because I feel that you're successful somewhere else, and it would be a disservice to you and be selfish to you to keep you here. When the rest of the team understands why you let that person go, almost as a favor to them, there's no there's no hard feelings towards the owner, towards the leadership, because you did it for the best reason for the company, for the employees, and for the clients.
So culture to me is basically like how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? Putting belief into your people constantly, like he was talking about, right? Like being their rock in tough times. Like a lot of your employees, they don't know what goes on, right, on the back end of the business. They don't know what you're going through, but showing up every day with a smile on your face, showing up every day ready to go to war with them. You know,
People don't know how important that first statement is, showing up no matter what with a smile on your face.
Yeah,
It's huge.
People don't understand a lot of these, a lot of employees, right? They're not in the positions we are, right? We've just had a situation come up where, there's a little tiff in the office over something, and I'm not going to get into it too much, but this person didn't realize what, one of us was going through on that day, and she got a response that she didn't like, right? But at the end of the day, if with those types of people, it's like you can either build them, he could have fired her, he could have built her, and instead he remedied the situation and built her up, and that's like kind of what you should do as a leader. I think culture, that speaks to that type of culture right there, that cultivates people like her to really buy in and know that, like, hey, we're real. Like, we're going to keep it real with you, good times, bad times. And I just think a lot of these employees, they don't understand what you're going through as an owner. So I just think always showing up with a smile on your face, right? Always with a can-do attitude, being supportive, knowing what's going on with them in and outside of work, right? Sales guys are different, but your office staff and your operations, like, you got to be a strong knit group. You got to know what's going on in their personal lives. You want to be, go in every morning. I go in, I fist bump everybody, ask them how their night was. How's your morning? All right, what's going on? How are your kids? You know what I mean? Building those solid foundations and those relationships. I'm a little different than he is, right? Like, when it comes to firing somebody, he is great at, he doesn't like to fire people. He likes to give them the opportunity, right? You're a big opportunity person.
Yeah, I've been referred to as a trigger man before, right? Yeah. So I've fired many, many people, but I'm never going to answer your question, I'm never going to let someone go when there's a fixable problem that I feel like I have the solution for them to go to you now, and now you get the best version of that person. Right.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Right. So now
you got to kind of take the good with the bad a little bit in some instances.
You take the good with the bad, but I'm not going to let someone go or a teammate. Now they learned that lesson that they learned in my office for them to go to your office, and now they're the better version of themselves. I'm going to hold you back, and I'm going to capitalize on it. Now, and that's kind of the mentality. But I feel they have to understand what the company's mission is, right? And you're cultivating a core group of people that are working together to work in a specific direction. That is culture as well, right? To understand that there's more than just selling solar. There's more than just selling roofs. What are we doing it for? Where do we see ourselves in 5 years? And what is the impact it's going to have on you personally if we achieve this mission that we're on? That's also part of the culture that has to be spoken about and repeated daily.
Yeah, it's like one mission, one dream, right? Like, you all got to move, and as he says, you got to move as the water flows. So if you're all flowing together, that's good culture, right? And then if you have some bad apples, you have currents, we'll call those bad apples, right? You got to get them out of there, and right, because a lot of time you can have culture killers.
Yeah, of course.
Like, you got people in your office that you may not know. I've had it, right? I had somebody try to fuck me behind my back. One of my people tried to steal all my people, and I didn't see it coming. Because at that time, I got so comfortable with my business because I was making money, I was happy, where I lost sight of my culture. You know what I mean? I was losing it. And unfortunately, like, it happens in business, but it was a wake-up call for me, right? And I think a lot of the times, too, like, I feel like the bigger your company gets, it's harder to, breed culture all across, right? We have installers, sales reps, operations staff, like, and you tend to forget about some of these people. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
You do. And it's unfortunate because then they're not bought in as much as everybody else. And then you may have loose ends on one side of the business, and then you try to jump over here. And it's just, it's a tough mix, especially when the companies get bigger, right? But, like, look at Vivint. Vivint is one of the best companies when it comes to culture. These
massive, yeah.
Massive. They go knock doors for a living. They're out in the heat all the time. And they end up retaining so many people.
If you can get somebody to walk in a sometimes sketchy neighborhood in 90 or 100 degree heat, day in and day out, there's something going on there.
There's something.
There's some magic.
And we kind of took that. We looked at, we talk about it all the time, like the little pump up meetings. And now we're getting to a spot now where we can start getting, core value cards, right? Living by these values, who we are. But there was a time where, like, I lost sight of my values there. I lost sight of the culture, right? And it's something that I've had to get myself back into. And I'd say over the last couple of months, I've been really, self-development again. I've been reading, because when you're doing it and you're executing as an owner and you have all this shit on your plate, then you can expect these people to do it. Then you can really have them buy in and say, hey, look what I'm doing. follow me. I love you. I care about you. This is why I'm asking you to do this. This is why, outside of work, you should be exercising, you should be reading, you should be eating healthy, So there's so much more to it. You know what I mean? But culture at EHS, man, we're big on the core values, core value cards, always doing what's right by the client. Do what you say you're going to do, right? Like there's just so much. I mean, I could go on about culture for days, but it is something now with Roofing Co. Like we're starting to build that, and I love it. Like we come in on Saturdays now. Some Saturdays we bring the team in. He killed it this last Saturday. He's dropping nuggets, telling the direction of the company. Like it's, I just love seeing it, man. Like it's a testament to you and like everything that you've been putting in. Like this guy's, as you can tell, like he's got these metaphors.
He's like, go on.
He has these metaphors, and he's so great at it. And he's so good at like, I'm a very black and white. You're going to do it fucking this way. This is how it's done. You know what I mean? Like
he's a cultivator. I mean, he's cultivating culture.
Sean is built for leaders. Sean is, you are right. That is your level that he operates.
But there's a yin and yang, and you recognize each other's strong suits, and that's a rare thing. And one thing for me that I've noticed recently, and shout out to my people that do this. So we have swag and stuff like that, hats and shirts and polos and stuff like that. When either I see them come in and wear it to the office, or if I see it in like a Facebook or a social media photo of them wearing the swag outside of the office. And I'm like, one of the guys came up to me and he's like, hey, like I need more business cards. And I'm like, you need more business cards? He's like, yeah. Like I tell people like I work for the firm.
I love that.
And I'm like, dude, like that's, first of all, we'll order you something right. We'll get you a truckload of business cards. Well, as many as your heart desires. But like, you have no idea what that means. Like, thank you for doing that. Because you obviously
huge compliment.
Hey, I work for a law firm. Like, whatever, man. You know what I mean? But like for you to
takes pride in where he works.
It's huge.
Man. It's huge.
It was like a huge compliment, and that's so important. And there's nothing wrong. I've done a lot of these. I think we're going on episode like 9 or 10 at this point, and this has been a massive success. And I can't thank you guys enough for being here. One of the things that I've noticed with owners and operators and things when they talk about their employees, one of the last things that they ever mention is money. It's not a compensation thing anymore. That's part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
It's words of affirmation. It's little gifts. It's, little bonuses. It's recognition and stuff like that. There's so much more to the puzzle rather than just like, hey, here's a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Like, hey, fist bump. Good morning. Like, how you doing? Their kids' names. Yep. Like, who their significant other or their spouse is or whatever. That's huge.
So I think too, for us, we spend a lot of time, I know I do as well, and he does, is like, we spend a lot of time with our employees outside of work.
Okay.
We do. Like, we hang out with them. We've cultivated a good group of people around us. Like, and to me, it's like when you go out and you take them out to a dinner or, JP, my new project, well, not new project manager, he's been there 4 months, right? It was just his 40th birthday. I'm not drinking anymore, right? He wanted to go out, so he doesn't have many friends.
Shout out to 75 Hard right now. I did it. Congratulations.
Honestly, man, I don't even know. I'm being real with you.
Yeah.
Like, I like to go out and have fun. Everybody knows I like to go out and have a blast, but like how dialed I am right now, I'm upset with myself because I feel like I've robbed myself over the last 2 years of dealing with the stress of business by going out and drinking and partying because it made me happy, where now I am the happiest I've been in the last 2 years. My marriage is great. My relationships and my friendships are growing. I'm healthy. I'm getting back into shape. I'm confident again. You know what I mean? So just these small little tweaks. And now what it allows us to do, right, us going on this righteous path together, now we can be better leaders, right, within our businesses and outside of our businesses, because it's like we're doing the work, right? We're taking the time. We're not only investing in ourselves to make ourselves better, but we're also going to invest in you guys now, right? We're gonna spit free game to all of our employees. We're going to help you guys grow. And it's just been great, man. Like, I wish I would have done this a long time ago. I know anybody listen, if you talk to any billionaires or multimillionaires or older guys that have made it, right, the question I always ask, I've had a few of them I've asked. I was playing blackjack probably a month ago. Little old guy sitting next to me, probably 60. Me and him started shooting the shit, hung out, sat there for hours. Guy's got 3 jets, didn't really boast too much about it. And I just asked him, I'm like, somebody my age, I was like, I'm growing a business. I was like, what is something you would have done a long time ago to get you to where you're at now? And he goes, I would have stopped drinking 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He goes, it's literally, I've heard a lot of people say that, like a lot of high level people, right? They're like, I would have stopped drinking. He's like, I would have, not saying like we're alcoholics here, but I'm saying even going out on the weekends, then you're hungover on Monday, then you're starting to feel normal, semi-normal Tuesday. Now you're in the middle of the week, Wednesday, and now you got your shit together, right? And you're still not dialed in. Then the weekend comes back around and you go back out and hang out with the boys. And it's just this vicious cycle, So.
Dude, I'll tell you 2 stories with that. So I don't drink much as it is, maybe a handful of times a year. And if I go, I
talked
go.
about
There's
it
a
at the
photo.
time.
Yeah. There are a handful. And if I'm going, I'm going. So there's photos of me and I post them on social media as a joke. Sometimes I'm like, people are like, you're having a drink. Like, is everything okay? Like, do we need to pull you aside?
That's great.
So it's become such a joke with your friends and colleagues and stuff like that, that people get me Red Bull for Christmas because they know I don't. They're like, why am I going to get you a bottle of wine or anything? Yeah. It's been life-changing. And there were so many times where I woke up and I think when I started having, like, especially my son and stuff like that, and it was even before that, I didn't want to feel like shit. Like, I wanted it to perform.
Yep.
And then when I did 75 hard, bro, I'm telling you, like, it changed my life. Like, if I ever met Andy, like, I would tell him, like, you have no idea what you've really done. Like, everybody, like, no, it's like, it's been mind blowing.
Have you read his new book yet?
I haven't read the new one. I'll check it out
right now. I forget what it's called, but I sent him pictures of the pages. I mean, it is literally.
Bro, I read 6 books. I haven't read 6 books, other than law books and things like that. I haven't read 6 books in 10 years.
And how great does that, like, your mind, like, when you're reading, you come up with these, like, this ecosystem thing we're working on. Like, I was reading a book. I just was reading and I saw this guy speaking about X, Y, and Z, and all of a sudden just clicked. I was just like, fuck. I was like, oh my God, here's an idea. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, oh shit. I was like, we can do this. And then I brought it to him and he's looking at me like, holy shit. And then we brought it to another buddy and he's like, holy shit. And then just, fast forward to today, right? We're sitting in this meeting with this gentleman, super successful guy. You can tell he's just one of those, he's like low key, like fuck you money type of guy, right? You can just tell, not flashy, not very. And we're sitting there and we're doing business with him on our HVAC side of the business. And I just happened to leak this out and he's looking at us and he's just like, oh, he's like, damn. He goes, this is fucking gold. He's like, I want in on this. So it's one of those ideas where now it's like shit.
Starting to get traction. Yeah.
But what I'm getting at too is, like, if I would have been going out these last couple of weekends or prior, this would have been a kitchen conversation that would have never made it to even where it's at now. This would have been us coming in on Monday and being like, hey, that idea, that sounds good. Too hungover to do anything. I'm tired. But now me and him are fucking full go. We are like, this is it. Like, this is our play. And we'll save this for another episode.
To bring you guys back and tell us about the ecosystem, a project ecosystem. From the readings, I will say as well that there was 2 other things that I discovered that were very one was comforting and one was a challenge. Number 1 was quit being a bitch.
Yep.
Because there's plenty of people out there that have gone through either a heck of a lot more than you have to get where you are, and you got a long road ahead of you. And then the second thing is, again, to build on that, is you're not alone.
No.
You're not alone on this journey. You're not the first one to go through this. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, like, if you stick to the path, if you stick to, your core values, I call them non-negotiables, and you do these things, there's going to be some version of success. It may not be what you want. That's okay. But there's going to be some version of success, and it may be even better than what you expected. So,
have you ever seen the Kobe Bryant video where he made a contract with himself?
Yep.
Non-negotiable.
Yep.
Right? I did that. I have one. I hit it on my IG because I broke my own agreement with myself. So now that I'm on this path again, I'm looking back at it. I read it the other day and it was fucking like, damn, like, this is the path I'm on now. Like, it was just one of those things you go back and like, this is a non-negotiable. Like, this was probably the best decision I feel like I've made in the last 5 years, was to start 75 hard again. Cause you're in the scene, you're going out, so many people. So there's always something to do. Right. So there's, you feel like you have to have a drink to fit in. Right now, what did I just say on the way over here? I take pride. Like, I feel like I'm a bad motherfucker right now because I'm doing the opposite. Right.
Oh, yeah. It's empowering. It's empowering.
It's empowering, dude. It's so empowering. Like, so like my biggest thing too is like, for anybody out these other entrepreneurs coming up, like, it's all cool. Right? It's cool to be in the scene and shake hands, but if it's affecting your business and affecting your life, like, fucking quit it. This is the side you want to be on. Like, this is, if you really want to build epic shit and do something so big that you look back on your life, like we were talking the other day, like, I want us when this is over with, this ecosystem, to look back and us shopping for yachts together and being like,
are we going to your island or mine?
Exactly.
Yep.
What are you going to name yours? This is what I'm going to name mine. Like,
are we taking your plane to get there or my plane to get there?
So
like,
that's the cool shit.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of these guys think they get a little bit of money and then they start going out. Like, that's cool, popping bottles and buying tables, like maybe in your 20s. Right now, It's like I look back and I think,
Time and a place.
I wasted time, you know what I mean? But it's just one of those. It's like if you really want to build something sustainable and you want to get to from A to Z faster, sobriety's the way. You know what I'm saying? Reading's the way. Do 75 hard. Like people, I don't feel like he's never tried it, right? But he's doing this no alcohol thing with me. But people don't understand how empowering 75 hard is because it is non-negotiable.
No.
You got to do this shit every single day.
Check it off, baby.
And you have to fill in your days around this. Like tonight, I sat on the way over here. I was like, fuck, I got to get home. I got to do my outdoor workout and I still got to read.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm going to get it done. You know?
Like I said, my life changed, my systems changed, my time management changed. I mean, it was massive to me. I actually, and I cheated a little bit, but in a good way, I'll say this. So I did 75 hard once before I made it to day 37. And I said, I'm just too busy and I can't do this and I can't get both workouts done. And I was so angry with myself. So 6 months later,
You're still talking about it today.
Oh, dude, I was like so pissed off of myself. So I was like, I was going to start like December 1st or January 1st. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to start November 1st and I'm going to get it going and I'm going to get this kicked off. And, but even before November 1st, 2 weeks before, I started training for 75 hard.
Yep.
So I actually started training 2 weeks before. And then I'm like, November 1st, let's do this. And yeah, it was one of the most rad experiences of my life. And I'm glad I did it. And I need to do it again. But you guys are insane, man. Insanely amazing.
Thank you.
Between, EHS Solar, coming up together to have this great synergy, this partnership, this ecosystem that you're creating, and now Roofing Co. I'm so happy for you guys. Insane.
I appreciate you, man.
So what we are going to do is we are going to make sure that we link Shawn and Trevor's IG in the description. We're also going to make sure that you guys have EHS contact in there and their website, as well as roofing.co. And then we will obviously bring them back for episode number 2, part 2 rather, when things get going with their new brand, their new company. So guys, thank you so much. Before we wrap up, make sure that you guys like this episode. Make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. And as always, before we sign off, it is no accident that Shawn and Trevor are as successful as they are. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
We're out.
Thank you.
Be good.